check, guys. A little bit of housekeeping. Let's get this ready. Get the show on the road. G'day! Welcome to Happy Flying, the FPV live stream where we tune in every single week. But I do need to go through a few little things. We've got Lad Oz in the chat, so he's saying loud and clear. Hopefully, let me know too. Can you actually see my camera? Am I frozen, or are we live, ready to rock and roll? Because we're about ready to go, and then my computer decided to freeze, which is very, very annoying. But I think I've got it. I think it's working. Let me know in the chat as some other people are tuning in. I know we've got Johnny DRC in here. Happy RC Fly is saying audio sounds good. Johnny DRC is giving me the thumbs up as well. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you everybody for that little bit of support through the technicalities and the technical difficulties we have here. If you're new to this, welcome to Happy Flying. It's the best part of my working week. We're going to get together. We're going to talk all things FPV. If you've got any questions, please throw them down below. We're going to be answering anything you would like to know about FPV, and we've got some exciting info we're going to be talking about today. So if I just look at my show notes, I need to check this as well, actually. Let's see, is this, look how, oh, look at that. There we go. I needed to double check that make sure that's working. But things we've got coming up, things we're going to be talking about, I should say. We're going to do a bit of a check-in, talk about mental health a little bit, because that's something I'm really passionate about. And I feel like a lot of FPV pilots might need to hear a couple of positive words. So we're going to be talking about that. If you are into DJI, well, we've got some exciting news for you. We're going to be talking about like the latest goggles and new air units. So it looks like that new generation of DJI FPV is just around the corner. We're going to check out Phaser a little bit. I need to show you some really, really fun things about wing flying, because I did my first wing flight in like a couple of years yesterday, and it was an absolute blast. So trust me, if you are looking for a way to spice up your FPV days or your journeys, wings are like such a cheap, amazing alternative. We're going to be talking about that. It was a heap of fun. We've got some old drone diagnoses as well that we need to go through. So a couple of comments on Reddit, and it's sort of, you don't always need to buy the latest and greatest stuff. If you can already use something, go and do that. But how old is too old? So we're going to be looking at that. A big one. We spoke about this a little bit last week, but I am toying with the idea of possibly getting a 3D printer. So I will need your support. So if you know about 3D printers or ones to check out, I've already had some amazing emails for some people as well to give me a lot of advice. So we're going to be looking at a couple of those and sort of talking about the pros and the cons. And I'm mainly going to be thinking of doing it with FPV. So like drones and camera mounts and motor, well, not really motor mounts, but, you know, action camera mounts. Just some things we can use the 3D printer for with FPV. We need to talk a little bit about props, because I've had a couple of these questions. So we're going to be talking about like how to choose the right prop, what do all those numbers mean, all that sort of stuff. And then there is a new drone that is just coming out, the Hummingbird V3. So that's over at Newbie Drone that I'm also interested in. So we're going to be having a look at that. Just going to catch up on the chat. Let me know what you are doing, or what time it is, and also what was the last thing? Like, what was the last thing you went out and flew? Did you get to fly this weekend? Do you have some plans coming up? Like, what is your next FPV adventure going to be? I would like to know. I've had an absolute blast this weekend. It was probably one of the most fun times I've had in FPV in a little while, because it wasn't just work. It was like also, like, it was almost like doing those wings. It was a little bit sketchy, a little bit scary. We had some close calls. We got very, very lucky, I guess, in terms of getting our wings back. So I had an absolute blast this weekend. It was great just to get out, fly around, learn some new skills, and also hanging out with Stickman Steve. Johnny DRC is saying, can't wait to get the AR baby wing. Yep, it was an absolute little ripper. It was very, very fun. The Universe is saying, are you a fisherman? I always see you wearing jerseys. Yeah, I don't mind a bit of fishing here and there. Here's a bit of a tangent. So I don't know if this is rare in the rest of the world, but I was out with Stickman Steve. We were doing some fishing last Wednesday or maybe Thursday. It was one of the last week sometime. And no joke, these two whales just like appeared in the bay, maybe a stone's throw away, like just popped up right near the boat, which was absolutely crazy, like a mum whale and a baby calf. So that's pretty special. I've never seen that before, but maybe that's a common occurrence in the rest of the world. Definitely not very common for me, anyway. Johnny DRC says he's still searching for his missing quads. We've got the great Scott. He's in here as well. He's saying yo-yo to everybody. And Kiz is saying, I have a 5-inch race next Saturday, then 2 weeks after that, a tiny whoop race. What do you think your chances are, Kiz? Do you feel better in your 5-inch performance or the tiny performance right there? Let me know, because if it was, I don't even know. If I had to perform tomorrow, I think, well, I feel like whoops might be easier, but then you see people like Neo racing a whoop, and it's like, oh, okay, it's equally as hard. It doesn't matter what race I went in. I would feel like far too much of an old man. And the Door Explorer is saying, I have a real issue with vision at 40, with a Vision 40 if you have time. Yeah, man, throw it in the chat. I'm not sure what you mean by Vision 40, like your vision when you're 40 years old, or is there a product on something that I'm missing out? And this goes out to anybody. If you got any questions, like, that's why I'm here. Ask away. I will do my best to help you and improve your FPV journey. I want you to enjoy the skies, enjoy the hobby, and FPV is such an amazing experience that I want to share that with as many people as possible. So if you've got a question, big or small, what to buy, what should you get, what's best for you, how do I fix this, this is broken, what's the issue I've got here, what do you recommend, just throw them in the comments down below. I will go through and we'll answer. I will guarantee I will answer your question. If you put it in there and I haven't answered it, well, then I feel like I'm not doing my job correctly. Now, moving on. Let's start with just, I guess, a bit of a check-in. We do call these streams like Happy Flying. That's sort of the name I've got about them. And just a quick little note that positive mental health energy out there. If you are suffering with mental health, or you've had some things in the past and you sort of don't know what to do about it. I've struggled with my mental health in the past. I had really bad depression, and thankfully now I'm in a much better place, but I never want people to feel alone. So this might not apply to most people watching this, but if there is just even one person watching this stream right now and they're not feeling okay, I want you to know that don't feel alone, don't feel ashamed. Please go talk to somebody, get some help. Don't feel like you have to suffer through that alone, because we're all here for you. There's professionals out there as well, and if you don't want to go to them, please just reach out or just talk to some people, even in the Discord. FPV is an amazing place, and you deserve to have the great life that you're owed. So if you are suffering in any way or struggling with your mental health, please reach out, and yeah, even just send me an email. I will happily have a chat to you and see how we're going. So I can see some other people in the chat as well, so it's great to speak about it. And that's one of the reasons that I also talk about it, because I don't want people to feel alienated or isolated if they're struggling with it. So the universe is saying my mental health is trash right now. It feels like my life is a prison. So I want to say thanks for sharing that. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you are making my stream. I'm glad you're here. You're making my stream better and just hanging out with you. So being part of the audience and just being part of our community. So I know that whatever else is going on in your life, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for opening up, and I hope that you don't feel alone. So thank you very much for doing that. He's saying I'll get it under control eventually, though I always do. Well, yeah, that's why we talk about going to get, just don't keep it in. It's not weak to speak, is a good little motto that I've heard some people say before. And also, I'm going to tack on this little bit right here on the show notes, just surrounding yourself. This is why FPV is so great, with positive people. Like, if you're around a lot of negative people all the time, I believe you sort of become the average of those people. And one of the best things about FPV, it really is, I think it's like a bit of a meme now, but it's like the friends we made along the way. But the FPV community is outstanding. I'm sure everybody can let some people know in the chat that it's just a great place to be. Like, we are really kind. I feel like 9 out of 10, maybe 95 out of 100 people in FPV are pretty awesome people. And also, you don't have to worry about what other people think. I want to let that, like, if you're worried about jumping into FPV, as long as you are being safe, we are really like welcoming. So you can turn up to a race event, ask as many questions as you want. Just, we as a whole, I would say the community are really supportive of each other. If you're doing something dumb, well, you're probably going to get grilled for that. But yeah, it's a very, very cool place. All right, I'm just going to catch up on the chat a little bit, and then we're going to be talking about DJI because that's sort of probably the biggest news that's happened in the last 24 hours. We have, so I can see Anthony Zane, hey Stu, Anthony from Sid here and loving it. So I do know an Anthony in Sydney, but I don't know if this is the same Anthony. So let me know there if we actually know each other in person. Regardless, though, thank you very much for being here. And we've got Matty O in the chat, and Kiss is talking about his Whoop. He's saying, I think I do better on a Whoop. I haven't tested my throttle cap on the 5-inch yet, though, so that part is part of uncertainty. Okay? Just go full throttle. There you go. And happy RC Flyer is saying, been in RC helis and fixed wings, but new to FPV freestyle quads. Really been having fun with the sub 250 Oasis Fly 25. Okay, the Oasis, awesome little drone. If you've got the one that carries around DJI, I did a little review of that. It has plenty of pop for a tiny little craft. I would recommend, I think about a 700 milliamp hour pack, which is what I was flying around on that. Let's see if I can get a picture on the screen of what that actually looks like. Oh no, look what's happened, guys. I clicked the mouse. Okay, bear with me. This is where, if you are watching this right now, don't, sorry to interrupt your scheduled programming. We've got to get this under control somehow. This is the one part I get a bit of stream anxiety. So I feel like, man, thanks for being here. And then I feel like I'm letting you down. So if I could just have your support for 1 minute while I just fix this, I will be back. And if you're still here, it really will make my day. So type away in the chat. I'm going to quickly see if I can cancel this and reopen it. I think I've frozen anyway. Okay, let's see if I click this button. Stay calm, everyone. We have such a cool audience here too, so I want to say thank you. When I'm back in 30 seconds, if you're still here, I'm going to say thank you very much. Check, are we back? I can't tell if we're actually still streaming or not. Are we good? Okay. Jeopardy music. That makes me feel old. Man, we have 20. Okay. We're back. We're back. I'm getting better at fixing those. So, woo! Let's get, I would even give myself a thumbs up on my video for how quickly we fixed that. Things went well there. So thank you, FPV gods out there who are looking out for us over the stream. And yeah, I want to say thanks very much. I really do appreciate it for being here because I try to put audio's cutting in and out. Is that true? Let's have a look. Audio's cutting in and out, but otherwise good. I think the microphone, it looks like it's okay on my end. Maybe if that's YouTube just catching up on the data right there. Let me know, give me a bit of feedback anyway on how that's actually performing. Okay, we're good. Matteo is saying we're good. Everything's fine here. Thank you very much there. Sounding fine on my end. So Ladders is, well, I know he's in Australia. He does have to get some better internet. We don't have many options over here. I'm actually considering getting Starlink. So I don't know if any people out there have Starlink, but we still use like the old telephone copper wire is the best I can get here. It costs me close to $100 a month, and I think we're on 40 down and like 12 up, maybe 10 up or something like that, megabits. So yeah, it's a bit sketchy being in Australia. Anyway, we are back. Thank you so much for your patience. Let's jump right in. And we are going to talk about all things DJI. So this was released, this leak came out the other day, and I've seen a bunch of people already doing videos on it, and it's kind of interesting. It's probably a big deal. We're talking about the latest DJI, I think the cheap version of the goggles, DJI goggles N3, better than expected for a pricing. The current price of these is going to be pretty interesting. Check these out. So I'm going to jump over here, do a bit of a screen share. Please, computer, do not explode. So these little, and my face isn't even in this one. What's going on here? Can I do this? There we go. Oh, look at that. I just popped out of the internet right there. So these are the latest goggles, which are said to release, it looks like by all accounts, early next month. I expect them to be a pretty big seller because they are going to be considerably cheaper than the current standard goggles. They're a bit of a down spec, but yeah, I think it's kind of cool. Like I'm all about budget FPV options. People don't need the best of the best to get flying. And let me know too, if you are flying around, do you fly digital? What system do you currently fly? And probably the big one, if you are looking at getting into the hobby today, how much sense does this make? Now, they're going to be a direct competitor to these right here. So these are the Walksnail Goggles L, which I really, really like. And especially for $199 of those versus these goggles, which are, does it have here? They could offer FPV experiences for under £250. So I don't know what that is. That might be like, that's pretty close. What's £250 in US dollars? So Johnny DRC is saying, figured I just switched to Walksnail. We've got some other things right here as well. If we scroll down, I'm going to link this. I'll link this site in the show notes a little bit later. This was getting my info from. And we also have another picture over on Reddit. We'll talk about the air unit just a little bit. But this is, from what I could tell, one big, like, large FPV screen instead of the two individual screens. I don't know how it will go with like compatibility. I would say as we move further and further in generations away, if you're in DJI, the older stuff is going to become less and less supported. So it's going to be always modern. And this is one of the things I really dislike about like new DJI goggles. I feel like DJI is a company that reminds me a little bit of like Apple's marketing, where every year we need a new headset, we need a new goggle, we need a new like iteration. And it feels like you just have to keep buying the same thing over and over and over. I will admit they've done okay to support some of their products now. I feel like in the past, it was a little bit dicey. It has been a little bit better with the O3 Air unit and what that's been supported to. Like they've really stuck to that one for a long time. However, now so I read this I was looking at this on Reddit this morning. So this is the DJI O4 Air unit. So I don't know any of the specs of this. I don't know, its compatibility or anything like that. I would have to suspect if you were DJI, it would really upset a lot of people if this was not compatible with latest generation goggles. So they'd probably have great numbers on their marketing and the amount of people that have the compatible goggles. And there'd be a point when they're like, okay, it's not profitable to support these old styles. But yeah, I think most pilots are going to be safe if you bought your goggles recently. But this is probably pretty exciting things. I don't know what the specs are going to be like. I don't know what the performance is going to be like. It looks like a bit of a chunky boy right there, and the camera looks absolutely massive. So I'm not too sure who they're like. It's probably like 5-inch racing quads. And if you're doing DJI for freestyle, this is going to be good. What I would love to see, and look, DJI wouldn't give two hoots about what I say about them. They probably don't even know I exist, but I would like to see two things moving forward in the future when it comes to DJI. Number one, this air unit right here, please give me a way to play nicely with like the power levels and the channels and all those sorts of things. I want to have much more control over what it is rather than it just blasting out of the sky. FPVs for everybody, and one of the things DJI I feel like doesn't do well is play with other systems. So I know Walksnail, it's kind of in the middle, and things like HD0 are an absolute thumbs up or a thumbs plus with how they play with all the frequencies, and you can control exactly what it's doing and analog, and it's really, really nice. DJI, I would say, is the worst contender for that. Other people might have some different experiences, but for me, DJI is one of the hardest ones to fly with because you just cannot have that over complete control or anything like that. Let's see. Chris Croft is saying, oh, I can use this special little feature that I worked so hard on. Check this out. Ooh. Oh, well, I haven't fixed it perfectly, but Mads Tex is saying the Pro camera will be similar to the Avatar 2 camera. I think this, like the F value right here is a little bit lower, maybe, from that. So I would have to check that out. I feel like if that is the case, it will be better at like low light performance, but you're probably going to need some ND filters maybe, or it's going to need to play with that a little bit more. So I don't know, kind of interesting. And I don't know how to pronounce your name, sorry, my friend, but he's saying O3 rules at this time. Yeah, it's pretty good, but it's also not my favorite. And that's for another reason, which brings me on. So if you look at the size of this air unit right here, one of the best things that I like that I think HD0 has going for it, and also Walk Snail, and let me know if you're a DJI user and this would be something you would like to change, can we get a small air unit? Because I want to fly, like, the more I fly around, the more I do FPV, there's something about those tiny little drones that are just so fun to fly. So like the Lightning, I recently flew the Eagle, so I was flying that yesterday, which is basically a 2-inch, but it's a little bit heavier with the O3 air unit. The best thing about Walks now is that tiny little form factor. I can have a tiny little 2S drone that screams around, is absolutely perfect for my FPV experiences. And the same with HD0. So if you're into racing, it keeps it light. You're going to have great performance, but it just makes it so easy to build. If you have to accommodate and put this inside your drone, well, it really limits what craft we can do. So I don't know if DJI actually cares about that part of the market, but I'd have to say it would be considerable. So they'd have to have some idea, maybe like an ultralight unit or something like that. I'm not too sure. Interesting, it's got 2 antennas. Let's see. Depends on how you fly. Interestingly too, also this came up. I'll be able to find the clip. You'll probably see it in one of the videos. But when I was flying with Stickman Steve, he threw the DJI goggles on. We're about to go for a rip, and he said, "Man, I prefer Walk Snail," and that's where me and him, I guess, differ. Where I prefer the DJI image quality. That's the thing I really like about DJI. I feel like they have 10 out of 10 in terms of image quality. They're the best. I'd give Walk Snail like a 8.5, and then I'd give HD0 maybe 7. So they're almost comparatively just a little bit less than each other. And then I'd give analog about a 5. So, but there is nothing wrong with flying around analog. Ultimately, if you're enjoying the skies, do not let anybody tell you what to, if you should feel good or bad about what you're flying. If you're having a good time, you're enjoying the skies, you're being safe, and you're being part of this amazing hobby, I say all the more power to you. You don't need to listen to some random person telling you bought the wrong product. You don't need to listen to this random Australian guy sitting in his lounge room talking about drones all morning. As long as the important part is you are having a good time flying around FPV. It doesn't matter whether you've got the old goggles, analog goggles, Walks Now digital. Just have an awesome time. Even if you want to fly a line of sight, it's all just still like the whole aviation hobby is amazing. RC, I cannot believe it took me so long. I'm getting distracted here, but I cannot believe how long it took me to discover these amazing little flying machines. All right, I'm just going to catch up on the chat just a little bit here. The O3 camera specs, it has a 1.7-inch CMOS and an aperture of like the FO is 2.8, and the O4 is 1.3 and the N 2.0. So you're probably a little bit better low light performance. Johnny D is saying that's why I went Walks now. Is that for the size, Johnny? And Richard is saying, I suspect the new O4, well, I should be using this. And if you want to tag me too, if you need me something to read out, like can you tag at UAVFutures, it makes it so I don't miss it as well. Even though I did promise to answer every single person's question they put in here, if I don't do that, just hassle me. Where is this? Here we go. Let's see. I suspect the new O4 light air unit will fill the market for smaller and lighter. Unfortunately, no good leaks yet on it yet, except that it is definitely coming. Yeah. So I've heard some people saying like the start of next month, which is, what are we in? Or maybe it's like 2 months away. Anyway, early next month, but it's pretty interesting. These pictures are out there, so people definitely have them. I think it's great. I don't think I'll be able to test the O4 air unit because I don't have a set of goggles. I don't even have the latest generation goggles or the goggles 2 or anything like that. I have like I have the first generation DJI goggles. I have the like 1.5 version that came after that, so I am able to bind up to my O3 air unit. But since then, I don't have any of the others. Maybe we could do a GoFundMe or whatever. We could set like a stream goal or something if that is something you are interested in. We could review that. But I think a better one for me, I would like to do a bit more work with HD0 as well. I think that's another big part of our hobby. Okay, all right. With the, how do I scroll this? Something's going wrong on my, here we go. Okay. With the O4 Air unit, there is the Pro and Light as well. And Happy Flying that's from Stav FPV. And Happy Flying RC is saying, yes, we would love to see the DJI Micro Air units that's sub 10 grams and can be operated on a 1S battery. I don't know if you're ever going to get a 1S Air unit. And to be honest, I don't even care so much about the weight. The biggest limitation for me is the size. Obviously, size is directly comparable to weight. But when you're building a quad, if you can have it in that little form factor and it fits, you can usually make it work. But when it's like, I don't know, a big chunky boy like this O4 Air unit or the O3 Air unit, I find them tricky to build around on a small craft. All right. And Johnny D is asking what size it is. Yeah, I don't know. I suspect it's going to be pretty comparable to the O3 Air unit. Okie dokie. Moving on. Yeah, but all in all, an exciting time for FPV. If you're flying around DJI or you're looking to get into digital, maybe wait a little bit, see how much the new goggles are going to be, see when they release. I'm pretty excited to test maybe the new goggles as well, because I do really like these. But this is because these are budget for a lot of people. So I think these are great. With the Walk Snail, it's going to be very interesting to see. Maybe Walk Snail is actually doing some things where DJI is getting a little bit scared and they're like, oh, it's a bit of a cheaper market. Those rascals are taking some of those sales. Let's release a bit of a budget goggle for people out there, which is why we need competition. So very, very cool stuff. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to this. Check out this bad boy right here. So Phaser FPV, thank you very much, because every little bit of support on the channel helps. And if you ever shopped around in Australia or checked out FPV products, Phaser has an amazing range and he sent me some coffee beans. So yeah, thank you very much, Phaser. Maybe I was looking a little bit sleepy, but I want to give him a bit of a thanks, because it is harder than ever to make like this as a living on YouTube. So whether you're a Patreon, whether you're just a subscriber of mine, whether you send me a super chat, or we've had some other people send through some donations, that really does make a difference. Yeah, it's just more than you know. So even those coffee beans, well, that it definitely adds up. So I want to say thanks very much, Reese. He's a legend. I'm going to put his link should already be in here as well. So if you want to go check out Phaser, please go do that, especially if you're in Oz. Now, Phaser, do you have any wings? Because this is what I want to talk about. I had one of the best FPV experiences I have ever had yesterday, and it's happened before. I've flown wings and I've had an amazing time. And let me know in the chat if you have flown a wing or not flown a wing. Are you one of the people who, in the chat right now, have you flown a wing, not flown a wing? We need to know, because it is such a blast. I built my little baby Sonic Pro little, like basically a cheap little quad, a cheap little wing. And it was so fun. It was scary. I practiced on the wing sim. I was very, very nervous to fly it. So was Stickman Steve. Kiz is saying he hasn't flown a wing. I should say also too, Face is saying order over $100 and leave a comment on the house. Okay. We've been waiting on the new TBS wing coming before the end of year, fingers crossed. And Lad Oz is so he's never flown a wing as well. Or maybe we can change that. If I'm ever down there visiting Victoria, we can definitely go fly some. And other people are flying. Looks like some people have flown a wing, because it is outstanding fun. And I think it gets even better if you're going to mix it. So I went across to the farm, which is over the road just here. And I'm going to see if I can show you some of this footage. And I got very, very lucky. So I need to, please don't crash if I'm playing this. I'm going to have to double check the sound, because, all right. Have a look how good this looks for an analog camera. I was blown, like the colors look so nice here. All right. Where are we? Where's the launch? It got a little bit sketchy. Stickman Steve's there. He's ready to launch me. Chris Croft saying, I've never had a wing, but I've been meaning to do it. My wing was horribly off center and it was insanely windy as well. So this is a tiny little wing. And we did fly. Steve had a larger version of the Sonic model plane or the Sonic model wing, and it was a bit smoother. This tiny little one, it was not balanced perfectly. We needed to trim it out a lot to the left from memory, but I probably should have had an OSD because you can see there's a lot of water around here. And guess what happens when you're flying near water? So luckily these things float. You will see, let's see if we can find this. So I started to get used to it. It is really, really weird because you can basically fly these things with just one stick. Once you set your throttle, you can take that hand off completely. There's no yaw control. You don't need to mess around with your throttle or anything like that. Just checking the video. Really, really cool. And then so just learning how to fly. I was feeling much more confident towards the end of the day. But then if we go check out this. This is where things got a little bit sketchy. So I think about here is where I realized my battery is dying. Here, this turn here, check this out. So I'm realizing, I'm like, man, my throttle, it's like doing nothing. So I'm like, okay, I have to turn around. No, I'm trying. And that landing there, well, so what I actually did, we went and water is a magnet. This looks hard to fly. They are not hard to fly at all. But check this out. So this is Steve walking over to where we landed. So very, very close. This is not a doctored photo or anything like that. You'll see this in the video. This is like, yeah, this is where we landed. So very, very grateful to get that. We would have got it back anyway, but I was grateful that it didn't land in the drink in case it damaged any of the components or anything like that. So yes, about as close as you can do it, because one of the things you'll notice when you're trying to fly a wing around, I'm just going to put this playing while I'm talking about this. When you're trying to fly a wing around, it is really easy, but it's not as precise, if that makes sense. It's probably a little bit like akin to if you've ever done, like if you've ever driven a boat or piloted a boat, there's not really too much to hit up there. You can just sort of coast around, but it's not as responsive. It's going to drift. It's got its own flight path. It will basically take care of itself though, but you need to really sort of wrangle it a little bit. So it's the opposite of a drone. A drone is really precise and can do exactly what you want it to do. It can turn on a dime. When you are flying around a wing, you don't get that option. But here, I can let my hand off the throttle, off the sticks, and it would, if it's not too poorly set up, it would just keep coasting in. Like, yes, it's going to be bobbling around and those sorts of things, but generally, it's not difficult to fly. Yeah, so I would recommend, if you've ever thought about it, go check it out. It's Johnny DRC is better on iNav. And Anthony is saying, so size matters. You knew that was coming. Well, here's something. I might be able to show you this actually. So I haven't looked at these, but let's see how this is going to work. What do we got here? Just trying to find some footage. This is a larger wing, so we had two that we were flying. Oh, this one's a bit noisier. Let me mute that because I don't want to hear the static of things. So this is the other wing we'd set up, and this is a larger wing, and you can see it's a lot more stable. So this is Steve cruising around. The larger size, it gets pushed around more, but you don't feel it as much. So I think this one was easier to fly. So if you're going to get into wings, don't think it's the opposite of drones. The larger the wing, it's probably easier to fly. The smaller the wing, it's just more zippy, more finicky in the air. It feels a little bit more agile though, whereas these ones will basically look after themselves. So yeah, really, really easy to fly. And it just was crazy when we're coming in for a landing. You can see Steve's obviously really getting into it. We flew these quite a lot. But then we cut throttle about here, and then they just coast. So there's no throttle in any of this. So you need to be really careful when, like, there we go. It's completely disarmed. and it's just still, you still got obviously your servo controls and things. But if you were ever interested in flying a wing, please go and do it. It's so much fun. The video is coming. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're going to have like the full setup and everything we did. If you are at least remotely interested in just taking your FPV game to the next level, I cannot recommend it more. It is just absolutely awesome. Okay, moving on. Just looking at the time, I feel like I got definitely distracted here. We've got a fair bit to get through. I feel like this happens. So if you got any comments, throw them down in the chat. That's impressive resolution for analog. Yeah, it was just some really nice video we had there. There is nothing wrong with flying analog. I will probably build a digital wing because I was having so much fun with it. I just wanted to do analog purely because it is cheaper if I lost it. If it broke, if it crashed, just it disappeared, well, then I wasn't going to feel as bad. I wouldn't cry as much. So there we go. Brandon is saying the 2 meter wing my buddy has is stable, very stable. He and Johnny DRC says like flying a 2.5 inch on 6S. Yeah, definitely smaller, trickier, more nimble. Larger wings, just more stable, easier to fly. But this also super cheap. So, and very durable. If you crash them, you can just hot glue them back together, and they're probably going to be fine. All right, moving on. I want to talk a little bit about this. So, this is how old is a drone part? When should you upgrade? Is there anything wrong with old parts? And can we diagnose and help this person get flying? So, there was this little comment right here. And this says, need help identifying and moving forward. This was my first build. I started building years ago, and it was from a local hobby shop that closed, and I have no idea what I need to get flying. I ended up buying a couple of cheap pre-builds now, and now I want to finish this. The end goal is something I can use the O3 on. What parts do I need? What should I consider replacing? It's been so long. So if we have a look here, the first part I notice when I look at these, we have a power distribution board, which means it's pretty old. We have some other flight controls. We'll talk about the motors. I think the motors are probably something that you don't need to replace. Where are they? So these are the Emax RS motors. Great motor. I used these just literally the other day. As long as they're not damaged, they're going to be completely fine. The interesting part is probably these. So these flight controllers. Well, if there actually is an F4, I think they would probably be okay. They're just going to be a little bit more work to get flying, depending on what version of Betaflight these can support, and if they're still around, if they've still got targets and those sorts of things. The interesting part, though, that was going to be a little bit difficult, and you can let me know in the chat as well. The frame, of course, frames it as the frame. You don't need to worry about that. But we've got these ESCs right here. And these are top-notch ESCs for the time. So they've got Bill Heli S. Yes, I know that. But they are a 2 to a 6S ESC, and they're a 30 amps. So they're probably going to be pretty fine. I think doing this build with these KV motors, what are these KV? 2400 KV. So I would say this is just going to be a 4S build. But what advice would you give this person? So my advice, it was basically, it's still good enough to get flying. It's just going to be a little bit of work, and maybe the frame is fine, but you might just need to replace the stack in the center if you want it to be really easy. We could get this flying, and of course you can add your O3 air unit and all that sort of stuff. If you've already got that, then that's no problem. If you wanted to take the easy route, it would probably be just to change out the center for a stack. But let me know, what would you do? Could you get this flying? And I think yes. Could you have a great experience with this? Yes. Could you still have fun with an old quad? Yes. Do you need to go out and buy the latest and greatest and upgrade everything? No, absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with an old analog quad. This is what we flew like, 3-4 years ago, and you're still going to have an awesome time. Is it going to be as competitive as, say, today's race drones? No. But there's still nothing wrong with it. And of course, like the frame, just fly it till it breaks. This might be a great learner drone. If you can build this and put this together, you're going to have an awesome time. And then you're going to be able to repair your more expensive drones in the future. Let's see. Brandon is saying you can flash those with Blue Jay. Okay, you can flash those ESCs. And he uses the F405. That's the flight controller. Oh, you mean out of these two flight controllers? The F405 right here. Yeah, I was interested with this one. It does have the Betaflight symbol on here, so I don't know. Looks like he got it from Jake's Performance Hobbies. Whatever happened to that store, but yeah. It definitely, you can fly this around. If this is you, or if you ever see this video, whoever this person is, you can do it. It's just going to be a little bit of work, but there's nothing a bit of knowledge or most people in here in the community could put them together. So if you've built your own drone on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it? Do you think you could get this flying? The trickiest part is going to be those ESCs. And Kiz is saying, isn't the one on the left the Speedy Bee F405? I don't know, actually. It looks like the only tricky part is some of these pads look like pre-soldered or a little bit rough. So I'm not too sure what's happening right here. That would be a little bit sketchy. You might need to check your continuity and making sure you're not getting any shorts or those things. No, it's an old Betaflight F4 old school. I don't know who made it. Yeah. So I don't even know if Speedy Bee is allowed to use the Betaflight. They must be able to use the Betaflight logo. No, a wasp. All right, moving on. I have a really positive announcement right here. So check this out. Because if we are... I was really pleasantly surprised when I saw this. So I have been doing some reviews and tests with a 5-watt VTX. And that is absolutely insane. You're going to see the full video on that. It's from AKK. It's a 5-watt ultra long range VTX. And in my mind, I have to admit now, I've got to go back and edit some things in the video. I may have made a mistake because I thought, and you can agree, you can ask this question, who's going to benefit the most from a 5-watt VTX? And I thought, well, it's sounding definitely like this sort of thing that maybe some people in some conflict zones might be interested in. However, look at this amazing surprise. So I want to give a huge shout out to AKK here for being a positive presence in the hobby, for believing in FPV for fun. When I went to grab the VTX table of this bad boy, and let me know if you're expecting something like this. Like, this is great. I cannot believe a company that you rarely see this side of things. Often we blame a company and say money, money, money. That's why they're doing this. They don't care who they're selling it to. But when you go to the AKK website, and I was grabbing the VTX table, yeah, they have this ultra long range thing in the back, but they basically have a spiel here of like, hey, we're not selling to these nations who are at war. It's not intended to be used for military activities. They understand they can't control all that. And then they said, look, to sort of try to cancel that, any orders, no matter where you're from, if you're exceeding 50 pieces, it's going to be cancelled. So look, maybe it's smoke and mirrors. Maybe they're just like, that's just like their public face and they're doing some things underneath. But at least even to put this out there, I think that's great. This is exactly what I like in our hobby. People believing in FPV for fun, and they understand they're being realists. They understand people are going to use these things for nefarious uses that aren't related to fun. But yeah, I thought it was such a good thing, a company putting the hobby first over profits, and a company we don't hear too much from, when then you've got some other companies that, look, I'm not going to name names. You've got some other channels that say they're for the community and believe in FPV, and then they're doing the complete opposite. Yeah, making things a little bit sketchy, even making their own war drones and those sorts of things. So let's see. Remember, AKK has a smart audio bug and doesn't get the correct channels unless you build Betaflight with the AKK fix action. Okay, thank you there very much, because that's probably why I was having some issues with it yesterday. So I will check that out. And SOS Death Pilot has an option that says he won't stop him from having multiple people put orders from him, though. That's the whole thing. Yeah, look, I think there's going to be issues like that. It's one step in the direction. It's at least it's a public stance saying, hey, we don't support that. I think it's a thumbs up from me anyway. I say good on them, and if you can support AKK for the mission and what they believe in, I think all the more power to them, and all the more FPV power. Let's get those ultra long range channels out there. I don't know who's doing that though. Who's flying 5-watt on an insane VTX channel? Yeah, Brandon's saying in Betaflight, when you flash, just add the AKK build option and it will help that issue. Okay, so I've got to do a reflash on my flight controller because I actually threw it in Steve's drone And I was like, oh, okay, I'm having some issues here. And Dave is saying all we can hope for is the conflict to end and maybe cheaper FPV parts afterwards. Yeah, one thing I think we can all agree on is that it's it's not there's definitely advances in technology, and usually the military is the thing that brings those along, and conflicts brings those along. I think I preferred it though when it was more just we were having fun. Like that's where I like. Even though the advancements are slower, that's what I will take first. Okay, let's talk about maybe you can help me. I need a 3D printer. Well, I don't need a 3D printer. I'm interested in 3D printing, but I have no idea which one to get. I don't know anything about 3D printing. I've had a 3D printer in the past. It'll be close to 8 years old. Yeah, it's very old, and I feel like it actually broke the other day where I took it so far apart trying to fix it that I was like, this is driving me insane. I'm sure there's got to be a better option, something that's a bit more reliable. Like my SD card, when it doesn't even read, I've got to put it like 30 times, plug, replug, just to try to get it to read. It was never the best off the bat. I lent it to Wingman Jono, who used it an awful lot. But yeah, if you have some stuff about 3D printers, please let me know. I know Phaser actually does have some 3D printers. This is actually unplanned to have a look at his site, but let's go check that out. Where are we? 3D printing. We have actual printers. And we'll do a bit of a Google as well if we can't find some. So 3D printing. Oh man, see, look at all these numbers. I don't know any of these things. A lot of people are saying the Bamboo A1 Mini seems to be a hugely popular choice. We've got another one. Bamboo Labs was founded by some peeps who left DJI. Chris is saying Bamboo Mini, A1 Mini. Man, we're getting everyone doing this stuff. So this one? I'm pretty sure you guys are not telling me to get a $3,000 3D printer, right? Where are we? How can I find this? Bamboo Mini A1. Okay. Let's have a look here. Jumping over to... All right. So we were hanging out and I said, hey, I need to get a 3D printer. What do you recommend? And the same advice I would pretend if someone came to me and said, hey, Stu, I want to get into FPV. I want to just get a cool value kit. It definitely doesn't have to be the best of the best. I just want to have a fun time in FPV. What should I get? I'd be like, oh, here, $500, get the goggles L, get some little 2S packs, fly around with a pocket radio. It's great value. You're going to have an awesome time. That's kind of the vibe I'm going for when it comes to through 3D printers. So Bamboo Mini, this is from Lockie there, or the P1S. So what is this? Is this the one we're looking at here? No, this one. You can't beat the performance and the price. So I'm pretty sure this is going to, oh, this might be in Australian dollars. So is this the one we're looking at? I have to admit that's not nearly as expensive as I thought. I only want to do like little TPU prints. That's probably going to be what I'm going to be doing it 9 times out of 10. Whose email would you like me to enter in here, by the way? If you can tell me what I'm guessing full auto calibration. Is that where it just like levels the bed itself? Johnny DRC is saying, I know nothing about printers. Well, my friend, that's why we're here. We're here to learn as well. Kiz is saying, yes, that's the one. I think it is around $350. Wait for the holiday sale first. What holiday sale? Four color printing. I couldn't care less about that. I don't even know what that means. It's not very noisy. Couldn't care less. It can play heavy metal for all I care in the background. My wife might get a little bit upset though. Vibration and flow rate compensation. I don't know what any. I think it just says like it's okay. It does an all right job. Is that basically how I'm reading into this? Full auto calibration will do the bed leveling and everything automatically. That's a big plus. Can it print TPU? Like, is that something that we need to worry about? And do some of these filament rolls? Here's a question I've got. I've seen some 3D printers where it looks like you can only buy their filament. Is that true? Or can you buy any correct size filament and it will do it? Because I think some have like an RF chip you've got to scan or something, from what I've heard. Johnny DRC is saying bamboo I hear is the best. Yeah, that looks like what people are saying. Does anyone actually own one of these though? Make amazing prints. And Kiz is saying, yep, it'll print TPU fine, and you can buy any filament with this. Most are 1.75. I think, is that a nozzle size that you're talking about there, Kiz? Hey, Dodgy, I can see him in the chat as well. The scan just makes the setup easier. They absolutely can do TPU. This is from Richard. Any brand of the correct size. Okay. And yes, TPU. All right, great. So I don't need to get a specific one. I was thinking about getting one, but I think you can only use different ones. I'm not too sure what SOS means right there. I do want to say though, we have some great people in the chat, because I know Kiz has been here from the start, Johnny DRC. I know we've got Lockie as well, one of the crew, so a huge shout out to him. An absolute legend who I'll try and catch up with maybe around Christmas if I head down to Victoria. But Dodgy, man, it's great to see you here. Are you still in FPV? When was the last time you went for a flight? So very, very cool. And that's one of my favorite things about FPV, is just the amazing community and like the friends you make all around the world. I started this FPV journey when I didn't know a thing about FPV and I didn't know any communities online. I went to the only place, I didn't know anything really about like internet communities and forums. I went to the only place that I could think of that might be interested in aviation and flying, and that was the local hobby shop. And they told me I needed to buy a huge, big gas, petrol-powered plane thing. It's like, oh, it's not really me. And he told me, oh man, you just need to start your own community then. When I asked him, is there any clubs or anything? So that's exactly what I did. I went home, and I guess the rest is history. Here we are. I'm just so grateful to be part of this and to have you guys along as well, because I'm just an everyday guy who likes flying. The only difference is I like to point the camera at it and share the adventures. So thank you for being here, everybody in the chat. That's every person. And if you've been here from the start, or you've been involved with the channel as well, I want to say thanks. So those people know who they are. Yeah, okay. The Bamboo Mini, only $330. It's not terrible. That's pretty interesting, actually. All right, I might have to have a look into. Is there any other ones we should look at? Because I don't want to just look at the first one that I've seen. If someone has some other recommendations or something, we can check out 3D printers. But so far, this looks like the top choice. Yeah, we might make a little stream goal or something like this, because it's hard to justify this purchase over maybe like some HD0 goggles, or there's some real FPV products that I need to review, that I want to review, that I want to get information about. But this might make a lot of things a lot easier when it comes to FPV. I could use this for a long time. Okay. Kids are saying I have an Ender 3 and he loves it. And Dodgy is commenting saying weather has been a bit naff to try and get out for a quick flight these days on RC cars and keeping up with skateboarding. Okay, awesome. Have you tried the gimbals on the RC cars, especially with the new, like the Walk Style gimbals? It's very, very cool. And Anthony's saying for $200 or so in Oz, why not? I spend that on odds and ends. Okay. Is that like how much do you think this printer should be worth? Bamboo is the DJI Apple of the industry. Oh, why did you have to say that? Like, so that means it works well, but I don't know if I like those brands as much for what they represent for the industry. At UAVFutures, all bamboo lab printers need no tinkering. Just pull it out of the box and start printing. That's kind of I don't mind a little bit of tinkering, but just to start off, it is nice just to get into the hobby. Okay, all right, moving on. There's two more things. I'm looking at the time actually, so I'm going to skip out on. I'm just having a look. Okay, we're going to talk about basically how do you choose the right prop for FPV. You might be jumping in and you're wondering, man, there is so many numbers and sizes. What is the right prop for me? And this is aimed to help you beginners out there. So a little bit of an educational video. If you're wondering exactly how to get the most performance out of your craft or what prop to order, this is going to be the video for you. So I'm going to jump over here to this amazing website, which you guys might have access sooner than later too. I know we talk about this a fair bit, but on a DIY FPV, we have a whole bunch of props right here. And you can see there is so many numbers and like 51, 49, tri-blade, 5-inch. It's just, there is a lot to take in. And I know a lot of people talk about, hey, you just need a 5-inch prop. First thing we're going to talk about is the amount of blades. So you will see if we can find a bi-blade prop anywhere here. Tri-blade is probably the most common. It's a really, really good middle ground. You'll see here we've got a quad blade prop. And the difference is the more blades you have on a propeller, the more grip you're going to have in the air, but you're also going to have lower top speeds and it is going to get more drag when it's zipping through the air. So that's where you really need to decide, what do I want to do with my craft? For most freestyle craft, and even a lot of racing craft, if on a more technical, tighter turn track, a tri-blade prop is perfect. Quad is for a little bit more grip. I do like the quad props on my little Lightning, which is a tiny little 2-inch craft. But for most people, something like this is going to be perfect. That's why tri-blade is sort of like the sweet middle ground. If you get a bi-blade prop, so that's a propeller with just like one prop on each side, or one blade on each side, they are best for like high speed, long straights, really, really screaming around. If you have a wing, I think they'd probably be good for that as well, because they're going to get less drag as they're ripping through the air, but they're not going to feel as grippy. A lot of pilots started out, if you're in the OG days, the original days of FPV drones, it was all bi-blade props. And then we moved on to tris, and this is sort of tried and true. It's what people like. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is the size. So, of course, we have like a 5-inch. So you can see this is, if I go back here, these are 5-inch props. These would be little mini props. So here we go. Here's a 35mm prop. So a lot of these, it can get confusing, but we usually refer to them as 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, or 5-inch propellers. So the ones we looked at before, they were all 5-inch props. This is your standard sort of race drone. You can see they will have 5-inch labeled in most of the product packaging. But then we have some little things like these will be some little whoop props. So these little things, and these will be like press fit. You can put them on. Generally, you will have a number. So here, 2-inch. So these would actually probably fit on my Lightning if I was going to put them on my Lightning. The next part, and probably the most technical part to talk about, will be, if I have a look right here, these numbers right here. So we have this. Let's read this together. And if you would like to get the best prop out there to find out, the V1S, very popular prop, but there's a 5, so it's 5-inch is going to be their first number, times this is the pitch, so the 4.5, we'll talk about that number and what that means in a little bit, and then we have 3 blades right there. So it's a 5-inch prop with 3 blades, but then we have this number here, which is 4.5, and you can essentially think of that as the higher that number, the more aggressive that prop is going to be. So you're going to have a lot more punch. It's going to take more voltage or more current to spin that. It's going to draw a few more amps, the higher pitched your prop is. And what that number means is for every, this is going to get technical, but for every 1 revolution of that propeller is going to move that propeller, if it was on an axis that had 0 resistance, 4.5 inches. I think that's how it's done. But ultimately, you don't need to know that calculation. Just like if we had a 5 times 3.0, it'd be a very, very light prop. If we had a 5 times 5 prop, it would be more aggressive. So we can see if here we go. These would be very, very aggressive props. So a 5.3, so that's a very, very steep angle on the blade right here. We got 4.3, so you can see this is called, like, if we just have a even look at the names, the Avan Flow makes it feel like a little bit more juicy, a little bit more smooth, because you can see that's only a 4.3, whereas the Gate Breakers here, that's a 5.5 one. Then we have some other options, which you might notice here. Here's a little bit tricky. So this is called they could also be named like this. So a 5149. So this is actually a 5-inch prop, but it is ever so slightly, it's like 5.1 inches, and I believe, and a 49. So pretty aggressive prop, which is just a little bit larger as well. So if you're getting a frame where you need absolute zero minimum clearance, be careful. I've seen a couple of times when a frame is only just designed to take a 5-inch prop, but they've ordered 5.1 inch. It's kind of dumb. I don't really like it. It's made it a little bit annoying. Just be mindful. Most quads though can easily take that. 5.1. Here we go. It's just some standard 5-inch props. But yeah, generally that's what all the numbers mean. So I know it can be a little bit confusing. You want to get a mix between blades, between sizes, and also between the pitch. If you have a lower pitch quad, it's going to feel smoother. It's going to feel more like flowy. And if you have a higher pitch quad, you're going to have more punch, you're going to have more thrust, but it's going to be a little bit more jittery as well. It's going to draw a lot more amps. And that's generally how a bit of an observation in my 10 years of flying on what you can expect. If other people have got some other things, throw them in the comments as well. Dodgy's saying aggressive equals fast and loud. Yes, the more aggressive they are as well, I think they're more inefficient. And a lot of that inefficiency, instead of coming out as thrust, also comes out as noise as well. So, all right. Airfield Quads is saying accurate. Imagine a gel, rotate the prop 1 full turn. Yeah, so that's talking about those pitch and how far it will move in terms of inches. Stu had some keys for liftoff. I don't know if I will get. I don't think Liftoff will send me some keys after my last video when I spoke about them. But I do have a bunch of other SIM keys. So if you need a SIM key, please just send me an email or tag me on Discord. I'll be able to do that. Dodgy's saying most of the OG crew is here. I'm going to answer a couple of more of your questions, and then I'm going to get to work. I want to go down and do some more things to the wing and get flying. Thank you for tuning in. It is the best part of my working week, and I want to make this part really, really clear before we sign off or say goodbye. I'm so grateful that you guys are here. Like, I really do appreciate everything you do for the channel, just watching, hanging out, being part of this FPV community. I know I say it each week, but it's because it's true. You're special. You are valued. Yes, I'm talking to you, even though you can roll your eyes and think, man, Stu, you're not talking. Yeah, I am. If you're listening to this, that small little smile that you have now, thinking, how does he know? Because I am talking to you. I really do value you being here. And I want to say just thanks for being part of the FPV community, not even just the UAVFutures community. Thanks for being part of FPV. You make this community a better place. So thank you. All right, let's catch up on the chat. And then we're going to be signing out. Johnny DRC is saying he selects dowel props. Man, are they still around? Props on purpose. You want smooth props for freestyle and aggressive for racing, or something else for filming. Another great live. That's from Happy RC Flying. Huge shout out to everybody for tuning in. Lockie, you know who you are if you're still watching this, brother. Absolutely. Of course, I do remember you, brother. Part of the UAVFutures crew. Even called my wife over and it's like, hey, look at this. Of course, you didn't have to remind me who you are, man. Just even one email, I knew exactly. So, all right. Other than that, look, I want to say thanks for being here. You guys are absolutely amazing. If you would like to support the channel, whether through a super chat or there is the Patreon link down below, it would be greatly appreciated. It is harder than ever to make a living on YouTube, trying to do this full time. So that link's going to be there if you would like to support the channel and keep spreading this message of FPV. It makes such a big difference, more than most people will ever know. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We are here week in, week out. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button as well for the happy flying. We're going to be doing number 15? I think we're up to that means number 16. That is 4 months in a row checking in with you guys. So thank you very much. I will see you all next week. Be kind of each other, and also, most importantly, be kind to yourself, because you deserve it. You are awesome. All right. Happy flying. Thanks, Rabble, for 8 years. Appreciate it, man. So great to see you too, Dodgy, Lockie, DRC, Kiz. We've got so many people in here. Such a cool little family.